Hello once again. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for wherever you are. This is Isaac George coming at you through Yin Radio TV. Here it is on the 11th of April, 2017. And once again, I can only start off the show by saying thank you for tuning in, and thank you to the staff and the producer and the engineer here at Yin Radio TV. And I'm just really getting fired up in a way because we have a lot of energy going on in the world. We've got a lot of stuff going on in the sky, and as I had mentioned in my splurges and my ads and stuff on social media and everything about what today's topic is about, which is like, what is the most important thing? It's like everybody can say, well, this is the most important thing, that most important thing, but it really comes down to the essence of life itself. And we're going to get into a lot of the aspects of what is going on astrologically, what's going on energetically, what's going on politically, economically, environmentally, cosmically. How much can we cover in an hour? Well, we'll get to find out. We'll get to find out exactly how much we can cover. But the main thing that I want to cover in the context of what is the most important thing is how do we effectively prioritize what is important, not just in our own lives, but what is important for all life here and now. What is the importance of this time that we're living through, that we're going through? What is important about what it leads up to? You could think about, okay, we've got the future, whatever that looks like. And there are different scenarios for the future. It's constantly in motion, constantly subject to change without notice, based on a lot of different factors. I see what is prioritized in social media. I see what is prioritized in media, and major media or mainstream media. And, it is sort of mind-boggling if you were to sort of imagine yourself, stand back from it all, like you were an alien species or, a member of an alien species that was observing what was happening here on the planet through the medium of the electronic media and trying to get a grasp of what life on Earth would be like if you actually inserted yourself into this hologram. You probably would say, no way, that's too much chaos. That is just so much distraction. There's so much information bombarding everyone all the time. How in the world do they have any grasp of what reality, the truth, or the most important thing possibly could be? And so it happens to me. I feel like the alien. I don't know about you, but if you had a childhood or young adulthood in which you felt like you were out of step or out of sync with the rest of society, the rest of this time frame that you're in, and maybe long to live like you lived in another lifetime, which I see so many people doing in sort of the New Age movement, but you also see it in normal society or regular society of people dressing and affecting a certain style of dress or a cultural preference because that is their comfort zone. That's what they remember as being peaceful or harmonious or whatever. And that's not a criticism. It's just what we gravitate to in order to feel a sense of comfort and groundedness and safety. Because we're all looking for some sort of safety or sense of safety. And we're also looking to avoid embarrassing ourselves, too. So we're looking for this happiness, this elusive sense of happy or happiness and safety, security, and the end of conflict or the end of duality or the end of the maelstrom that we find ourselves in, especially in modern societies. People that are living out in the jungles of Borneo or the indigenous tribes of the Aboriginal areas in Australia probably don't deal with the things that we deal with. So they don't have the stresses. They don't have the mental and emotional upsets. They don't have to think about or keep track of things that we have become used to in this culture or in this society that we have created. And it's staggering. It's literally staggering. And one of the things that is interesting right now is the people I consider to be sort of level-headed and pretty much, solid, and they're grounded, and they're going about their business and doing really well. Fellow astrologers, for example. One of them went off the other day, and I thought, this is just scratching the surface, but it's a good thing to repeat. It's a good thing to share with you all. I'm not going to mention the astrologer's name, but I just want to read this out quick because it does give you a taste of what we're trying to cover in this short period of time we have together, and I want to cover it to bring it into a soft focus instead of this hard-edged stuff that's happening in the world. So what he started off saying was exactly this. I'm just going to quote him exactly. Go to school, pass the test, find the right friends, get that job, get laid, floss, make sure not to fart in public, present yourself well, meditate for 15 minutes each day, blah, blah, blah. Be a conscientious partner, exercise, vote, keep your mind sharp, be motivated. Make sure that bathroom is clean. Feed yourself, but not too much. And plenty of veggies. Get the latest gadget. Don't be a phony, blah, blah, blah. Make enough money. Find your purpose. Be creative. Care about the poor and needy. Do the right thing, etc., 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 blah, blah, blah. I've noticed that being human is filled with a lot of requirements and demands. It's a full-time job, and it's hard. I encourage you to do whatever it is which makes it all worth it. I know it may be cliche, but there are a few other ways to say it. Please take care of yourself for real. That is my sense of the celestial instructions at this moment. Peace. And that is so true. If I had to sit down and catalog all the things that we keep track of on our daily sojourn of being awake on this planet, and you actually wrote everything down and kept track of it, it's astonishing. It is estimated that probably most people these days are processing information and ideas at a rate 150,000 times greater than we did or our parents did in 1950. Now, I was born in 1950, so that means exponentially each year, each decade, I have been exposed to and absorbed and are trying to catalog through my mind and my soul a tremendous amount of data, a tremendous amount of experience, a tremendous amount of sensory and intellectual input. Can you imagine for a moment, because the brain has more synaptic connections than there are stars in this galaxy, but can you imagine for a moment a Cray supercomputer being able to do all the tasks that we do? It actually is impossible. It couldn't do it. It may be able to do calculations for NASA, but it couldn't handle all the texting and all of the input that's coming through social media and is coming through the mainstream media and TV and gosh knows what else. It's a never-ending battle just to find silence. And you know what? Have you noticed that there is no silence? There is no space. You can't go anywhere in the world without encountering noise on some level, input and information on some level. I know traveling in the United States, I go through airport concourses and lounges and so forth, and it's like everywhere you look, there is a screen facing you with CNN or something else on MSNBC, I think is the other channel, bombarding us constantly. Now, the knee-jerk reaction here that I've seen, and I've done it myself in the past, is to disengage, to completely opt out, and not want to participate in anything because it becomes just too much. So we go to the ashram, or we go to the retreats, or we choose to maybe build a shack in the woods and collect a lot of canned goods and a few firearms, and learn how to hunt and fish on our own. Some people do that. Some people really thrive in that kind of thing, or living without money. So these are the things that we do in super reaction to the modern world and the modern life and the technology. But we don't always understand why. And we don't always understand what is really going on, because we see everything happening, and then there's reactions to what's happening, and then we don't really understand the cause and effects below that, underneath it. All we're doing is focusing on the events. All we're doing is focusing on the guy that's being dragged down the aisle of a United Airlines plane in Chicago and going, oh my God, isn't that awful? What did he do to deserve that? And then the arguments fly around and the comments fly around. It's like, well, they were in their rights to do that. That was lawful. He was the one breaking the law, so he's sort of like he got what he deserved, I guess. But on the other side of it, this is terrible. This is, the inhumane treatment of a real live human being, and a doctor, no less, who was just trying to get home because he had patients to see the next day. So any perception and judgment about who was right, who was wrong, falls flat, or what was legal and what was illegal falls completely flat, based on the fact that we are now engaged with a process in which human consciousness is expanding greater than our capacity to anchor it into anything meaningful. Systems are overloading. Our systems are overloading. The whole planet's running on cortisol poisoning more than anything. So how can we expect to understand or clearly perceive what is happening in terms of consciousness, or what is happening in terms of the experiencer, or actually direct things? That's why there's a great deal of emphasis on, following your spirit without hesitation means following your dreams, what your soul impulse is, and not doing that to ignore what's going on around you, but to try to be of some way, shape, or form assistance to others who are struggling. All right, so that's the whole point of, the explosion of life coaching and mentoring and business coaching and everything is everybody's still looking for that island of happiness, that sense of, I want to get off of the conveyor belt. I want to get off of the nutso machine that seems to be running everything, and nobody knows how to stop it or slow it down. Right? So what is the most important thing? And I think these words are interchangeable. They all describe the same state of awareness or beingness that we are all really, desiring. And that's peace. And that doesn't mean complete and utter cessation of everything that is what makes life enjoyable and interesting and intriguing and exciting and fun. So much drudgery. There are so many rules, so many regulations, so many taxes, so many obligations, so many fulfillments and responsibilities that we are personally held to account for. And yet, is the quality of life improving, or is it degrading? Are the effectiveness of our institutions and our politics improving things, or are they degrading things? Is our economy sustainable? Is it fair? Are we asking the right questions about any of this? Or are we asking questions couched in our cultural conditioning and our belief systems? Can we take logic to a whole new level? And what I mean by logic, I mean perception and wisdom, not pure intellectual linear assumptions. So we are dealing with a full moon today, or actually the full moon is over. Okay, it happened at 7:07 local time here in the United Kingdom in the morning. So we're past the full moon, but we are in the midst of a lot of shifts and changes. It's like a shift change at a factory. We had Mercury go retrograde last weekend. We got Venus going direct this weekend. We have Saturn going retrograde. We have, all this stuff about retrograde planets. Venus is retrograde, Saturn, Jupiter, all this stuff. It's like, what does this all mean? Who can keep track of it? Who can collate the information best and make sense out of it? as an evolutionary astrologer, somebody who really sees the value and veracity, the proven effects of transiting planets in personal lives and in the collective experience, it's still inadequate as a language to discuss exactly what it is that we want the most and how to attain it, how to obtain it, individually and collectively. So when we look at the stresses that are going on right now on all kinds of levels, astrology is one way to understand why it's happening, because it's a reflective process. It's co-creative. It's reflecting what is going on with the development or the evolution of human consciousness, and at the same time, it influences or impinges on that consciousness. It's a feedback loop. And as such, loops are closed systems. As such, loops are closed systems. You have to start looking outside of the loop to find where the real wisdom or understanding or truth is. You cannot find it in the loop. There was a coaching client I had today that was dealing with their fears around the astral realm or the astral dimensions. And this is what is happening, I think, for a majority of the human population right now, is they're looking at the boogeymen on the wall. They're looking at the scary stuff that's coming down all over the place and going, is there a space shuttle that can take me off of this rock and take me somewhere that makes sense? And the analogy that I had about this person being afraid of, the astral dimensions or the realms that are beyond the physical, just beyond the physical senses, is she was focusing on the shadow of the mouse that had just exited its hole in the floorboards and was illuminated by the lamp in the room, which is the light of consciousness or awareness, and it's throwing a shadow up on the wall, and it's about the size of a grizzly bear, right? And the person focuses on that shadow, fearing the worst, when actually it's just this little mouse. It's 2 inches high, right, standing up. So that facing right now on a global level, and that's what we're facing personally, or some people, or most people are facing personally, is like this big shadow. It looks like, we're going to be engulfed, eaten alive by the systems or the events that occur. But I think we're more durable than that. I know we're more durable than that. We're here for more than that. We're here more for learning as the basis of our existence, growing as the basis of our existence, not acquisition, not conquering things. Because once you've conquered something, then you have to have something else to conquer. That's usually the end of it. It's sort of like, this is probably what Buddha was referring to as the disease of desire, is that it never, ever ends. You don't achieve something without all of a sudden having a hunger for something else. You just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Right? So peace, love, connection, meaningful living, creativity, the arts, slowing down, understanding what and who we are, where are we going, and using the past as a fulcrum for freeing ourselves from it, not staying or living in it or believing the paper tigers of the past control the present and therefore define the future. Okay? So what I'm trying to get you to think a bit more as outside the box. And outside the box, forget the box. This ties into so many things. My work as a heart and soul coach, working with people, especially women, around relationship issues, around discovering that true love is a reality and that you can attract a partner of equal consciousness to form an equal partnership with. Why is that important? Why would you want to focus on that when there's all the starvation and war and injustice in the economic areas and in the social justice and so forth issues that are going around? Well, you know what? We ignore things at our own peril, and we also focus too keenly into one area at our own peril. But the whole idea of why I do what I do is to help people find real happiness, caring for who they are, overcoming their fears about being acceptable and lovable, and that they have something definitely of value to give to other people and to improve the lives of other people. And then in turn, the power of that is exponentially expanded by them being able to bond with someone in conscious partnership. Now the power of two is exponentially way more effective than either individual on their own, especially with a shared purpose, or at least with a shared mutual support of each other's own work. That forms the basis, then, see, of groups of others, couples and couples and couples and couples, and then you start getting communities or families, and then you start creating a regional support base, i.e. sustainable community. Doesn't have to be an intentional community where everybody lives on the same plot of land in different structures and then shares communal kitchens or stuff. But Findhorn is a good model. Findhorn is an excellent model. There's also a great one down in Nicaragua that I just learned about called Habitart, Habitart, Nicaragua. So I'd recommend you look that one up. It's an incredible new project. There's Damanhur in Italy. There's these places that people are experimenting with creating something new that has not been seen before, so that they will be in the forefront of what we can become when these other systems start disintegrating or needing to be let go of. Capitalism, most of the political systems we have now are inadequate to keeping up with what's going on technologically, what's going on economically. They can't. They're too slow to respond. So investing in the past in order to solve the problems or the challenges of the future doesn't make sense. So again, you have to think outside the box. What is the primary purpose and function of human existence? We have to come back to that fundamental question. And I feel it's to learn and grow. It's to evolve. But there is a choice that we're coming up to here, I think, at 2020, when we have the Pluto-Saturn conjunction, the Pluto-Jupiter conjunctions coming up, that basically says, what direction do we want to head off in, and what is that going to look like? What are the ramifications for the species? Will it survive? The planet will survive. I'm not worried about the planet. The planet's been through extinction events before, and the planet's still here. Billions of years, billions of billions of years. But are we ready to make that evolutionary leap? I don't think it's a 100th monkey thing. I think we need to revisit that. In fact, the experiment has been erroneously reported, and the results of it have been erroneously reported for decades. What we need to look at is the nature that we are of what we are facing is a schism or a split between the old and the new. And which wave do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the crest of the wave, or do you want to be in the trough of the wave? Where is it that you feel called to be? And are you part of the, I know this sounds a bit, black and white, but are you part of the solution or part of the problem? And that's what is being dredged up right now with all these retrogrades. We're entering into Pluto retrograde on the 19th of this month, 19th and 20th of this month. Pluto retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Uranus will go retrograde this summer, but for the time being, we're going to have 4 big guys, including Mercury, all retrograde. The big relief will be Venus going direct for a while. But this is a year in which it basically throws the time and space, where consciousness throws the gauntlet down and says, which way do you want to take this? And that's what the question is. How do we move forward into a society? How do we create a society that is egalitarian, cooperative, loving, sustainable, sake of the planet as well as for the sake of us. I don't think these two things are mutually exclusive at all. So whatever it is that we come up with has to be taking nature into account. It has to be taking the ecosystem into account, because, nature will bat last. As the phrase goes, no matter what happens in the late innings, nature always bats last. It's this recognition that some things are just bigger than us, period, we are part of all that is. We are part of the great source oneness, and there's the one and the many. There's the multidimensional individuality that we experience, and there's also the synastry of one. And what we have an opportunity to do right now, with what's in the sky, with what's going on, is to see that our role here is not defined, should not be defined by everybody, sort of in an every man and every woman for herself survival mode, and trying to work a 5D or fifth dimensional perspective, or an outside the box perspective within the context of this. Another way to think about it is stop imagining ascension as the whole world turning into a theme park, fifth dimensional theme park with all kinds of shiny lights and beautiful crystal structures and everything. Think of it more as the end of linear time. A friend of mine, astrologer Jim Buss, who I have a lot of respect for, coined that idea based on his investigations. He is coming into sort of the metaphysical New Age game a bit late, and he's looking at these people talking about ascension as like the planet ascending into another dimension or people leaving it. And he's going, no. This is not making any sense. This is about leaving linear time, which was pretty much what the end of the Mayan calendar was, and the Uranus-Pluto square cycles covered about 3.5, 4 year period. So now we are in that wave that was created by that. Okay, we don't see these effects exactly when when these transits, big outer planet transits, are happening. They come after. I'm not going to get into the astro babble about it, but we're on the wavefront now. It's cresting towards 2019, 2020. So what happened today with the full moon? It sort of lights things up, puts them into perspective, gets us moving and opening to information. Again, another source of information from the inside, from the inner realms, from the galactic core, if you will, as opposed to all of this data that's flying at us through electronic media, and it's in the airwaves all over the planet at the moment, and passing through your body, I might add. Television, radio, microwaves, everything. We don't have any firewall. Your computer might have a firewall, antivirus program, but do you? Do I? There's very little that we have conscious knowledge of being able to shield ourselves off from. And there is, as far as I know, only one way to do it that really works from a bioelectric magnetic perspective, and that is to get out into actual physical nature. Take off your shoes, take off your socks, and stick your feet in the dirt. There's something that happens with the bioelectromagnetic charge in your aura, in your physical organism of your body, when you have made contact with Mother Earth, when you have made physical contact with the planet's surface, or with a tree, or a plant, or being near water like an ocean. It changes your brainwave patterns. It changes your bioelectric field. You are essentially and temporarily immune from the electromagnetic bath that you are constantly exposed to in daily life. And it doesn't matter. You could, until you can get maybe above 5,000, 6,000 foot elevation on any mountain, you're in the soup. Unless you can get next to a shoreline of an ocean or where there's moving water, you're in the soup. Unless your feet are bare and in the sand or in the dirt or in the grass, you're in the soup. And you're cooking. We're all being cooked in the microwave soup, in the EMF soup. There are ways to deal with that. There are devices and technologies being developed to counteract and counterpoint the effects, the health effects. And there's more growing awareness around this. So if you want to know more, I'm going to load some things up on my website, on my homepage, www.isaacgeorge.com. There's a couple of tools there. I'm going to put a blurb on the homepage. You can go there, look for it at the bottom of the homepage, where you can go and download some tools and some advice about how to reconnect. And this whole point of reconnecting is getting the body happy makes you happy. Getting yourself having a regular respite from overstimulation and over-information, overload of information, is going to be that which begins to lead you to this place of really listening to the information you need to listen to, which is coming from the soul and the heart. And meditation helps, breath work helps. Yes, all that stuff is essential. But you will find that much easier to do and to engage with when you are not in the soup. Okay? You will also open to something else that the ancient Gnostics, the mystery school religions, were always aware of and recognized, is that in that connection with nature, you come into contact with what they call the Sophianic mysteries. You can call it Gaia, you can call it Sophia, you can call it the Great Mother, you can call it the Divine Feminine. You enter the womb space, all right? You enter the womb space. You come into contact with the mystery or the mysteries. And the way things are accelerating and the way things are going on, on this planet right now, people don't have time to study through mystery school initiations for 21 years to prepare for them. Can't do that. There are people experimenting or working with plant medicine as an accelerated tool, and that's one way to do it. Buyer beware, caveat emptor, make sure that the shaman you're dealing with is a shaman who is a shaman, who's responsible. Do not enter into anything anymore, I don't think, without thoroughly questioning and investigating it. It's trusting yourself. Or as I quoted to the engineer before the show started, there's an old Bedouin saying, trust to Allah, but tie up your camel. So, yeah, sure, Mercury retrograde usually isn't a problem for me, but I backed up all my data anyway on all my devices. Because it's just prudent, good sense. Not because I'm afraid of what might happen. But again, if we didn't have those things to deal with, how much more free time would we have for walking in the sand, finger painting, gardening, being with our lover, our partner, creating, learning, reading, discovering things, engaging with other people, loving others? This is the essence of what is most important. The most important thing is your gift and hidden genius that you bring to the world. Yes, it's very important that you give that so that it doesn't bind up inside and cause you to implode. I think there's an old scripture from the Gnostic Gospel that said, if you do not express or bring out that which is within you, that which is within you will destroy you. Gospel of Thomas, I believe. What is important to recognize, though, that the ultimate goal of being a human being is not to achieve something, but to understand that potential to achieve is for learning and expanding and growing. Because once you've achieved something, then it's on to the next thing. You get bored with that achievement. You're not going to settle and sit on your laurels for very long before you know that there needs to be something else. But can you slow down enough to understand that that is one expression and part of being human and being a soul, a divine spark within, which is to imagine whatever is possible and actually create the substance and the experience of that, so that becomes part of your integration, that becomes part of who you are, that becomes part of what Source is. like Source playing through you. You know, your unique constellation and expression. Grounding it into this reality. So we have an immense storehouse of potential. Huge. We can achieve anything we want. We can manifest and attract and magnetize anything we desire. But if you're not at peace, if you're not loved and being loved, and you're not loving, it doesn't mean anything. This is the true meaning of that saying, you know, what does it profit you to gain the whole world and lose your soul? And by the way, I'm not quoting it from a Christian perspective. I'm just quoting it as it makes sense. It's just wise. It's just wisdom. That it's so easy with everything that's happening to lose yourself in your attempts to gain everything. Gain yourself, and you'll have everything. You know, something that's talked about when I was spending time in Hawaii, co-facilitating dolphin swim seminars. The main focus there was the perception and understanding that the cetacean realm, dolphins and whales, they're amazing. You know, it's like, why do human beings react around dolphins in the way they do? You know, they encounter a dolphin and they go, oh my gosh, this is incredible. You know, they start crying or they start laughing or they start, you know, feeling like a 6-year-old again. And I've seen it over and over again on the boats, how people change, how the light comes to their faces and how excited they are again. Because they've forgotten their responsibilities for the time being. They've forgotten their worries and their troubles. And I've seen one individual who suffered a stroke for 6 years and went through every alternative and allopathic therapy they could think of to try to regain some use of their facial muscles and their being able to walk. And 4 days in the water with wild dolphins and being in their presence, she was able to walk under her own steam at the end of the week. She was able to smile for the first time in years. So what happens in that situation, or what happens with those creatures, is that they don't have the conditioning we have absorbed or come to believe in, or the traditions that we have. They are constantly and totally living in that 5D all the time. They are in that place of no linear time. They are that joy embodied. And they're all about play and learning. They love to learn. But they learn such a rate and speed that it just makes our minds boggle. They learn quicker than we can. Their speech patterns and their understanding is 10 times faster, all right, than what we can currently manage. So guess what? I think it's now up to about 500 phrases of human language that dolphins understand, and we don't know what they're talking about still. All right, this is just an example. So we come back to what is the most important thing. Well, they don't go to work. They don't wear clothes. We have so many opportunities as the Native Americans of America, the Native Americans did, of studying nature and studying animals and learning from them. Just in South America, the shamans learned from the plants. You know, maybe you've never heard the story about how the shamans know what plant medicines are and what combinations of plants they use. And they explained it to a group of MIT ethnobiologists led by Terence McKenna back in the 1970s and 80s. And they basically said, well, plants tell us which combinations that we should use and create. They didn't learn it from their ancestors. They learned it from the plants. And then those ancestors passed that information down through the generations. But that's how they learn. They learn from the other intelligences in the environment. But when you insulate yourself too much with technology, you lose contact. You lose contact with what is essentially really important. You lose contact with yourself. You lose contact with nature. You are operating in a vacuum in which you have no firewall, in which you have no access to soul and spirit, or very little. you've damped down. It's a damping factor. You've damped down access because you're constantly busy, constantly trying to survive, constantly trying to achieve, trying to get to the next level, trying to get to the next level, kind of the next level. And at the same time, what's happening esoterically, metaphysically, cosmically is you're being pushed to evolve beyond that. That's why the pressure is so great. I have to add a bit of a warning regarding astrological transits. I find myself in the past, and I see it now too at times, focusing too much on what transits are and what they do and what they seem to manifest or what their import or their meaning is. Do not get caught up too much with the dialogue of, oh my gosh, there's 5 planets now retrograde. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is what's going to happen. How are you going to respond to it? How are you going to create opportunities through it? How are you going to manage your affairs? How are you going to stay in peace and happiness? What are you going to do to really remain with what is the most important thing? Transits don't define you unless you say they do. Culture doesn't define you unless you allow it to be. You have choice. We have choice. I have choice to create something that hasn't been seen before. I think this is the opportunity or meaning of the Aquarian age. If we're going to look at the cycle and look at the meaning of the cycles and the great ages, Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, is Mr. Surprise. You don't know what is possible until it shows up. You don't know what's going to happen. That's the science of faith, is just knowing that everything will turn out all right. And if it isn't all right, it's not the end. I borrowed that from a movie called The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. It's a very popular phrase in India. Everything's going to be all right. If everything isn't all right, it's not the end. So we have this juncture, this 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, to really begin the process. Stop focusing so much on just healing and healing and healing, but start feeling and feeling into and thinking about what makes me happy right now. What is it that I need right now to really come back into center and come back into who I am? And trust yourself, trust your soul, trust your impulses or instincts, developing that intuitive awareness, that intuitive intelligence that actually operates much, much better than our intellectual knowing. Einstein knew it. Tesla knew it. We've lost it in the shuffle of humanity. We've lost it in the noise levels that are rampant in the planet and the media right now. Take a deep breath, slow down, chew your food, feel the air coming in and out of your nose and your mouth and your lungs. Feel what it's like to be alive. Even for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that is a better meditation than any mantra you can chant or any yoga position you can affect. Because that is the moment when you come back to your sanity and to your home. Home is where we all want to be, I feel. Home is where it's at. In my work with couples, my work with singles, people who want to be, who desire to be, who strongly feel drawn to this idea of finding the perfect mirror, is so they can stop the hunt, so they can be a finder and not a seeker any longer. And that applies for you, with yourself, but it also applies in this amazingly colorful and diverse and exciting adventure called human life. We want to share our stories. We want to share our lives with someone. So much about divine partnerships or divine relationships is caught up in a lot of drama. Relationships in general can be, either a blessing or a hellish experience. So I would like to invite you, or to offer you the opportunity to talk with me about anything that's going on regarding how do you find your soul purpose, how do you find your heart and soul in the midst of all this maelstrom of activity and information, how do you ground it? Or if you're going through some sort of spiritual awakening or a disillusion, or you've had some kind of shock in your life that is causing you to question everything, or some kind of major metaphysical situation like a Kundalini awakening, which I have very, very deep familiarity with, then that's something I can help you with. I can feel I can help you with. It's just, all of my experience in this lifetime has been walking between the worlds, one foot in the business world, one foot in the, somewhere out there in the other dimensions, being a channeling an archangelic intelligence. It's not something that is a career, and that's why I don't do that anymore, because I knew it was a limited engagement, just like being in a rock band. There's only so long the band can function until it's time to evolve into the next thing. So I have devoted my life to understanding the nature and role of relationship as a spiritual path, and sexuality as a spiritual path, and community as the natural outgrowth of happy individuals in happy relationships can create happy communities, can create a happy world. Happy isn't impossible. Happy isn't ephemeral and fleeting. Not the kind of happiness I know. Not the kind of happiness I know it's possible. Not the kind of happiness that everybody's constantly wanting, seeking, writing about, creating movies about, creating poems about, creating websites about. We're obsessed with it, aren't we? Maybe there's something to that. Because the experience I had when I first encountered my real twin flame, my real twin soul, was just the immense relief of hugging one another and just feeling at home. Nothing wild, no fireworks, no bands playing, no stars falling out of the sky. It was just peace. That sense of, this is it. And I've experienced that on my own. Make no mistake. And I know how to help others find it, but I can't do it for them. They have to find it. They have to find their own way with it. Just like as a species, we're learning to find our own way with this. Growing pains are never comfortable. But we don't have to stay stuck in the idea that we have to realize. We don't have to stay stuck in the idea that that is the only thing we have to look forward to, is the struggle and responsibility that goes with that. There's got to be a payoff. There's got to be a point in which we understand that life is more than the struggle, or that needs to be. That taking time is no longer going to be something we do when everything else is done. This is what ascension really is. It's getting to that place when the now isn't just some sort of philosophical experience or a goal. It's just the nature of life and enjoying it. Enjoying it so much that it becomes timeless. That's also, by the way, one of the symptoms of a twin soul relationship, at least a healthy relationship of any kind, is that you can spend loads of time with each other, and yet it seems brand new over and over again all the time. It's like, whoa, what is this? Why do I never get tired? Because you stopped being in expectations. You're no longer expecting something. You're no longer hungering for something. You're just there. You're just along for the ride. And you're learning and you're growing, but it becomes more of a play type of thing rather than a work type of thing. Maybe this is the other name that can go with that sense of what is the most important thing. There's peace, there's love, there's grace. All right? As my old mentor Ari used to say, grace it and get on with it. Grace and ease with everything. You know, no pain, no gain. I don't believe it. I think we learn through pain, but I really don't think it's just the only option for learning. I think we have made that a false idol. We've put it on a pedestal and we worship pain. We worship pain because we're told that's the way it should be. Isn't that just a throwback to Darwinian survival of the fittest, which is actually a false doctrine? Darwin never even believed in it. But we have made it a truth. If there's something that can either drive you crazy or give you peace, it's the demand for truth, with a capital T, over anything that you would consider truth with a small t, which is just another opinion based on a limited set of facts and evidence. There was a movie I just watched recently called Agora, starred Rachel Weisz, and it's about the story of the philosopher and astronomer Hypatia, who lived in Alexandria, Egypt in the 4th century. It's about her life and also about her horrendous and tragic death. I strongly recommend watching it because even in the throes of social and religious upheaval in Alexandria in her day and the challenges that were being thrown at the mystery schools and at the pagans at that time in history, she remained true to herself. She remained true to her quest for truth. She wanted to find out the truths of the secrets of the universe and planet Earth and the sun and the solar system. And that was what excited her. That was her joy. That's what brought her home every time. In the space of her life, she achieved great things that were validated 1,700 years later in science and astronomy. She was way ahead of the curve. She was listening to her divine mandate and her divine spark and giving her gift even in the most horrendous of circumstances. And she paid for it with her own life in the end. But she left us a legacy. So look up the story of Hypatia in Alexandria in 400 AD. So we only have a little bit of time left, so I want to come back and recap. The most important thing is your happiness, your well-being, your peace of mind. And whatever it is that you can do to facilitate that, I suggest you start doing it. Take some time to go out in nature and meditate there, reflect on, enjoy, give thanks for. Gratitude is very helpful. So that's the 4th element. That's the 4th counterpoint of peace, love, grace, and gratitude. All those work together. So if you'd like to know more about what I do, please visit www.isaacgeorge.com. Come back to the next show. Visit the archives at Yin Radio TV and look at the shows I've done previous to this one for more information about what I do. Support Yin Radio and TV, and please listen to the other presenters. Really great stuff. My friends David and Sky, the twin flame team, and Hillary Raimo, I mean, there's all kinds of really good stuff out there that is designed to help you grow, that's designed to help you liberate yourself in so many different ways. But the best thing you can do for yourself is to believe in and accept your right to be happy, to have your dreams come true. And better than that, your dreams be true. All right? It's better than waiting for some future time. Let your dreams be true. Your dreams are true. Whenever you choose, you can change anything, because that divine spark lives in each and every one of us. You are not helpless, ever. And there is not anything inside of you that is of you that doesn't want to help. All right? So again, the little bit of time I have left, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this program and to my future programs, if you choose to. And thank you very much for valuing who you are, loving the fact that you are who you are, and that you're here. And I'm grateful for that. I'm glad you're here on this planet at this time to help cut a new path, to realize a new dream, to see a new potential for the human experience and for all life on this earth, under the seas and above the earth itself and in the skies. Don't worry about ETs. Let's be more concerned with how we can change the factor here. Change the game here. Be really proactive about that. Okay? You know, it's not about what's out there. We have a lot more at stake right here, right now. So be well, play well. I'm sending all my love and blessings, and wish you all the best today, tomorrow, and in the weeks and months ahead. But we'll speak before that. I'll be back on the air here in late April, early May. Thanks again, and speak to you later.